Welcome to the Business of Wholesaling. I'm your host, Drew Carrell, and today I have Tiffany High, the co-founder of Results Driven REI and Heels Homes. How are you today, Tiff?
I'm living the life.
Living the life. Well, I'm super excited to have you on. We've known each other for a little bit now and have yet to do a podcast. So it's exciting for me to have you here and get you in front of our audience. I would imagine some of them know who you are, but I don't know if a lot of them know everything that you do. So I'm excited to explore that with you today.
Awesome. Let's get it.
A quick introduction. You are one of the leading U.S. real estate investors right now, an entrepreneur, coach specializing in wholesaling, flipping, and business scaling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you grew up in a small farm town in Northwest Ohio, oldest of four, and alongside your husband and business partner, Josh, went from being an overwhelmed deal chaser to running a multi-million-dollar operation. Is that correct?
Correct, man. What'd you do? Chat GDP me and find all the information?
I would love to say that, but I'm such a boomer that I'm always so afraid to use that and be wrong. So no, I make Danny go and your website and pull all this stuff so that I have it ahead of time. But maybe I will. Maybe I'll get there one day. So I'd love to start and ask you, you and Josh went from being overwhelmed deal chasers, as you guys define it, to flipping 300 properties in your peak year. What was the turning point for you? What changed your focus from chasing deals to systems and teams? Because that's a pretty big leap. Can't imagine it just happened overnight. But was there a pivotal moment that kind of changed your perspective into that?
Yeah. Do you want to hear the full story or the short story? Okay.
I want the full story.
So I wish I could tell you I got into real estate to chase some dream of money and all this stuff, but I didn't. And I was in the oil industry and building material space for a decade, and I was traveling all over the country. I loved my career. I had no intentions in leaving it. And I am the oldest of four. So my youngest brother was a senior in high school and he got diagnosed with cancer. And so long story short, when he was in a football game, someone tackled him, he broke his ankle. As they went to get an x-ray, they found a tumor in that ankle. Wow. And being the oldest of four, I was overly emotional and quit my job on the spot because I was I got to go help my parents because my siblings were all way younger than me. So they're all in school. And so anyways, my brother ended up in Nationwide Children's in Columbus, Ohio for a year. And when I went to move to closer to my parents, another company that's headquartered there found out that I had moved and offered me a job there. And so I took it, but I did not realize that I was going to be on a flight again Monday through Friday. And so I was okay, well, that definitely, contradicts why I did this. But for about 5 months, I did it. It was Good Friday of Easter that year. And we're sitting there. My brother I believe he had just gotten his leg amputated. And I remember sitting there and my father was looking across the room. And I'm like, Dad, how have you not physically left the hospital this entire time? Other than to sleep at Ronald McDonald across the street. And he goes, well, our teams are stepping it up. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And something internally inside of me was I need to go do something different. Like I said, I was going to do to be more present. So I quit my job, gave a month notice, and I literally had nothing. I was bartending, nannying, all that. And my cousin was flipping houses at the time. And I was bored and called him and was like, I don't have a job, so can I come see this house? And I was like, how did you learn how to do this? He showed me the before and the afters, and he was going to make $80,000. He pointed me to a coaching program. And so maxed out my credit card, made the decision on the spot. I think that's the first thing, right? A lot of people get too caught up in even being decisive, which is why they never make progress. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I make that decision and I learn how to flip a house. And I did about 40-ish in my first 12 months. And wow. I was a one-man show. I didn't have a CRM. I had no tools, systems, any of that stuff. I literally had a cell phone. And then I went to the courthouse because that's what I was taught. And I would get the foreclosure list and I would go out and door knock it. And then I remember one day someone's like, hey, you can get those phone numbers and skip trace it. I'm like, what's skip tracing? And anyways, I learned how to manually one by one. Now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, there were platforms that did that in bulk. I manually skip traced them and I did about 40 foreclosures that year. I was running around with my head cut off, just like, any one-man show that gets into it, you're figuring things out. Lost money on deals, gotten contractor issues. I'm out in the field all the time. And going into my second year, after I had some contractor issues, I was like, I got to learn how to wholesale. I keep hearing about this wholesaling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally max out a credit card again. I get on a flight, I go book a hotel and go to a wholesaling event. And I ran out of that room halfway through and was like, I had no idea that I could put this house in contract and sell this paper. I did not understand that for some reason. And so I had 5 houses in contract to flip that day. And I went and wholesaled them and made like a little over 200,000. And it really got me like back on my feet. And I thought, oh, this is way more scalable. Like I'm a systems, processes, and sales person, not necessarily like a construction person.
Right.
One thing I did was I dropped flipping and in-person appointments all together from my first year, and going into my second year, I went straight to wholesaling and phone sales that I had learned at the event. The one thing about our industry that, in my personal opinion, it lacks is it's one thing to go to a program and construct a deal, like how to find the seller, what a purchase agreement is, how the process works. And so everyone gets in the industry and becomes what I deem as a deal chaser. Like we're just waiting for the next deal, whatever. And no one really brings infrastructure. And it's like people's why is they get into real estate to do what they want, when they want, with who they want, both financial and time freedom. I call that option freedom, do what you want. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that without systems, processes, and people. I call it leverage. You can leverage tools and softwares and systems. You can leverage people. You can leverage other people's money. All of that is what removes you from the day-to-day. And without removing yourself from the day-to-day, you just got yourself a way more expensive, draining, grinding job. And I think that people don't realize that till they get in the game and press go. And then they wake up one day and they question what they're doing, and they either go back to their W-2 or they're like, this is miserable, right? And so in my second year, I built this team, but no one really told me how to pay them properly, how to train them, onboard them, how HR works, how business insurance works, like all these things that it actually takes to be a legitimate entrepreneur. And so I built this, 12-person team, and I think I did 165 houses that year, but it was miserable. Like, I mean, the place owned me. I didn't own it. I lacked training. I lacked everything. And so it was very depressing. And I remember for 2 weeks, I was laying in bed, and I don't know if you've ever been in depression, but I was like in legitimate depression. And I was like literally putting the blanket over my head, and I wouldn't get out. And I was like, oh, I'm hiding from the world. They can't see me, hear me, feel me. And then finally on a Sunday, I called one of my mentors, and I was like, I can't do this. It doesn't matter how much money I make. This is miserable. And so he was like, you're overcomplicating this, go in tomorrow and let go of 3/4 of the people that aren't making sense. So
really,
Josh and I go in that next day, and we listen to our mentor and let go of 3/4 of the people. And I, to this day, have never felt like more of a failure. And that night I attempted suicide.
Wow.
Obviously I survived that. But when I came out of that, I ended up in a mental institute for a few days, and it was life-changing. Come home, and I call my father, and I'm like, I'm moving in with you. I'm not stable, whatever. And he's like, no, you're not. Anyways, he's like, you're not quitting, because now you know what not to do. So now you know what to go do differently. And I remember being like, you're nuts, Dad. I almost died. Like, what are you doing telling me to keep going? And so I go to Josh, and I'm like, Josh, Dad says that we should keep going. Can you keep going? And he said, yes. And so I don't know how I have a husband that like supports that after, almost losing me. But
right.
We kept going, and I realized that like I needed to hire a mentor that helped me install infrastructure, onboarding, training systems, KPIs, all that, or I would just run into the same problem. And so I hired a one-on-one mentor, and I literally crashed the company to the ground, my CRM, everything, rebuilt it all, rebuilt the entire team in 90 days, and did 300 deals the next 12 months.
Wow.
Life's obviously been different ever since then. We've done 250 plus a year since. And over that journey, people ask me how I did it, and Results Driven came about that way. But so now I'm just really on a mission to, make sure that people don't end up 6 feet under the ground like me.
Absolutely. What a story. That's incredible. What do you think the difference is? There's multiple different types of people in the world. You're obviously somebody who's like, you're going to do something, you're going to do it at 110%, and you go right into it, right? Like you went into it and scaled so fast the wheels fell off the thing. Where other people, they see something and they're inspired and they have a hard time starting and getting going. What do you think the difference is? Like, what do you think set you up that you're the kind of person that's just a full into it, like went to your cousin, saw what your cousin was doing, and the next year did however, what did you say, you did like 40 deals in the next year, the next
Yeah.
12 months? So like,
Yep.
what do you think about you or your past, or maybe working in the oil industry, made you that kind of person that's what you would do?
I think it's just belief in oneself. You know, I was raised in a poor house and I just like, I had to take care of myself in the beginning stages of my life.
Right.
And so I'm like, if I'm going to put bets on anyone to survive, it's going to be me. And so I'd rather be in control. And then as I grew throughout my entrepreneurial journey, I've learned a lot of different philosophies around the growth part as well. And as I got started, I think where like a lot of people, like they might go do some deals and then they get stuck around like investing into people or marketing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always go back to the book E-Myth just because a lot of people know it. And there's the pyramid of, you have the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. The technician is the doer. Like that's what we all start as. And we're the one doing the inspections, making the calls, doing the transaction coordinating, you know, doing all the hustling. And most people stay in that category. They choose not to continue to grow. Although they, I think, internally desire being the entrepreneur. You know, the manager is at least using leverage, the next step in the process. That's where they hire a team. And even though they're managing the team has siloed into, you know, a transaction coordinator and acquisitions. So when you have a team of people, they're sole focused on getting deal flow. And when you never leave the technician spot, you experience what I call the roller coaster. That's where you're like 1 month up, 2 months down, 1 month up, because you get a deal, you put the phone down, you're like, I got to go transaction coordinate this, I got to inspect it, I got to do this. So it takes you away from getting deal flow. And you'll really never get away from that if you don't hire a closer. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what industry it is, we need revenue to continue to invest back into the company. So if we could do one thing good in the beginning, it's making sure that one human being is getting deals 24/7. Like that's the first step, because without that money, I can't go get the better software. I can't get the better this. I can't get the better that. And so the entrepreneur over here, they focus on the return on investment. The technician focuses on the cost. So a technician's like, let's just say I go on a podcast and I say, oh, direct mail is my number one and PPL and Google and all this stuff. They'll be like, well, what do you spend? What's the cost? I say, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Because that's not a good question. If you want a good result, we got to ask better questions. The question should be, what's your return on this marketing campaign? And then once I tell you the return, if you like the sounds of that return, then you should be like, where the hell do I get the money to go make that return? Right. Not like, what does it cost me? And then get scared of the cost. And so there's just a lot of mindset shifts that people need to take a step back and say, which one am I trying to be? Because if you want to be the one that wakes up stressed out, having anxiety attacks, depression, and always on the roller coaster, uncertainty, all that, then stay the technician if that's really what you want. But if you want the certainty and the predictability and that true freedom, then like you have to evolve into an entrepreneur or you don't deserve the result.
What do you say to somebody who's a solo entrepreneur right now, who's aware that their technician wants to evolve into the entrepreneur? I think what you're saying is your first hire there is like secure acquisitions, like secure the front end. If your first hire should probably be a sales rep or something like that, so that you can then work more on the middle part of the business and maybe dispo and whatnot and start evolving your mindset into the entrepreneur. But how do you evolve that mindset? Like, how do you go from fixated on cost into return? Because I hear this all the time. We're in a mastermind together, and we hear this all the time in hot seats where they're focused on costs and they're like, well, I spent 20 grand last month on marketing and it's up from the month before. And it's like, well, what'd you make? And they're like, well, we made 100 grand. And it's like, show me an ATM where I can put a $20 bill in and it puts $100 out, and I'll be asking my friends and family for every penny they have to go invest into this ATM. So where do you think the disconnect is? And I love this frame, the technician to entrepreneur. Where do you think the disconnect is from the technician to the entrepreneur, where they have a hard time grasping that? Do you think it's a scarcity thing? Do you think it's like a lack of resource thing?
There's a few mindset shifts. It's like normally when someone doesn't do something, it's either they just like fear the cost. And if they fear the cost, it's because they fear that they don't have the skill set to convert the lead. That's the real problem. Because like every marketing channel, for example, works, right?
Right.
Like they might go up and down like month to month, but over the course of a year, they will make money. And if I go spend money on mail, I always ask everyone, like I've never lost money on mail, by the way, ever. Like I probably shouldn't make that claim on here. That doesn't mean it's going to happen
you're
for you.
fine.
But I've been doing it for years. And I also crush PPL. I crush TV. I crush these because it's an inbound ecosystem. And ultimately it's like, if as long as I'm confident I can convert the lead, why would I not spend the money? Mm-hmm. And so the real root problem is that you aren't confident in your skill sets. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really big on growing people's skill sets. And the problem is like if I'm a one-man show, obviously there's this time factor. You can only do so many things in a 24-hour day. But when they go to hire someone, what I see most common in the industry is they haven't even mastered the skill set. So now I'm bringing someone into my chaos, expecting them to be the answer. And then I get pissed off when they're not and fire them or have turnover or whatever. And in order to bring them on properly, we need to know how to onboard, how to train, how to track KPIs. Like we need the basic level foundation to properly set someone up for success, including ourselves.
Right.
And the problem is like when we get into entrepreneurship, especially this game, we don't know what we don't know. We've never done it. So like, what do you do when you don't know how to do something? You go get educated. Mm-hmm. And it's learn, do, become. You can't get this result up here if you didn't first go get educated on how to do it. Then you go do what you got educated on. And then the most important piece is you have to become the person that deserves the result. So like, I would say, look in the mirror and say, who I am today and the skill sets I have today, is that person worth millions of dollars? Because if I don't know how to make the millions, it means I need to go get educated first. That's where I'm at in this journey.
Right.
And a lot of times it's like you just don't know what you don't know, and you have to be decisive and make the decision to go get the knowledge base.
And do you think that that's what, like, it's identity is what keeps coming to mind here? Like, this is like, you need to envelop the identity of the person who can do that. And then that brings the confidence that you can then go spend the money and your skill set is high enough to be able to do it. Right.
It's weird. This is something I've always tried to figure out, like identity, is it self-worth? But like, it doesn't make any sense to me because, you know, lots of Americans go to college, for example, like we choose to go to college, go $100,000 in debt to make 30 grand a year. So like, It doesn't make any logical sense to me of why you would fear getting a $10,000 education that equates to you potentially making, you know, X, Y, Z. And I don't know if it's like how we were raised that you don't like, I don't know the answer to that. I'm still like figuring out the psychology behind it. If it's like an identity, like, am I worth it? Or if it's like, hey, we were raised not to problem solve and be decisive. I don't know like where that sits. I'm still discovering.
That's an interesting comparison. Cause I always think of like, I think identity is a big thing. And I think when you're talking about skill, I think that that's what it comes down to in my mind, right? Like it's, if you can identify as, and you're confident in and have the skills to be a closer, that I can close these leads, then that's great. And I think that that skill and identity and whatnot comes from putting in reps, right? Comes from doing the work, comes from going through hard times, comes from failing so that you know what failure looks like, because failure is a lot less scary once you've kind of been there before, where it's just like, all right, I know what it's like to have a down month. I know how to react to having a down month. And so with that, I have the confidence to be able to take a few more swings at the bat, maybe take a few more risks or what might feel risky to me at the time, knowing that I can kind of overcome these things. I get hung on this quote recently, and it just keeps going through and through my head. But when David became king, God didn't send him a crown. He sent him Goliath. Right. And to me, that's this whole, like, he wasn't given to become a king. Like, he wasn't just told he is king and here it is. He had to become king himself. He had to understand that I defeated these large, massive things and saved these people. And that is why I am king. I became a king through this understanding of myself. And there's even a quote in the Bible that says, and then David realized he was king, not he was just given the crown or whatever it might be. So, and I think about that a lot in what you're saying here, where it's like, you don't just get given a skill. You don't get given, here's the magical script. You've done the reps in the script where you're confident that you are capable of it and you're capable of making the closes on the leads.
You know, I think that has a lot to do with it. There's a lot of people out there that bitch about their circumstance, but then don't do the things that it takes to fix the circumstance.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I can't help. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that piece out on how I shift that mindset. And so I always go back to like, if you're already in the game, then it's really a matter of like, some people have emotional decision making, some are more logical. And so I take a logical approach of like, okay, so we want a change, right? Okay. So what are you doing today? Okay, so we know that if you continue doing what you do today, it won't change. That's the first step. Like, and it's almost like people get it and then they know they got to change or they got to do something different and then they don't. And it's like, right. I can't help you if you don't want it yourself, you know? But ultimately, knowing that someone wants it and has a deeper purpose and why to wanting that, most times those folks, they just don't know how. And that's where education comes in. And really, you know, real estate has a lot of risk, as you know. And so like, I would never get into real estate without some type of mentorship, just because at least for your like first 100 transactions, no matter what, like there's so many things that you won't understand until you're doing it. Yeah, I think that, you know, I've always paid for 3 mentors a year at minimum. I have a life coach, a overarching, I call him my business therapist, because I just call him for like every daily type thing. Yeah. And then I always hire a niche coach. And so like this year I wanted to learn fractional lending at another level. And so I hired a fractional lending coach. And so we'll see what next year's is. I'm actually going through that right now to decide.
That's cool. So yeah, so it's like people are addicted to their story. Like that's so true, right? It's like, I'm having a bad time. The economy's really bad and I can't close a deal. And so long as they keep rehearsing that story, that's where they're going to be stuck. And yeah, I love what you're saying. So if you have mentors, if you have your business coach you're going to talk to, you have your life coach you're going to talk to, you have your niche coach, it's shifting your story constantly. It's evolving your story constantly. It's not allowing you to sit and become complacent in this story of whatever somebody's bitching about at this time. On that, tell me what are you doing like practically right now? We're in a high interest rate market. Like it's coming down. The Fed made another adjustment. Great. But what are you doing to maintain consistency in your business, given that it's kind of a tough economical landscape out there?
So we are doing more wholesaling than flipping than usual.
Why is that? Is that to diversify, like mitigate the risk? Like you're kind of giving somebody else, another flipper, the risk basically, and you're just taking the cash up front because it's safer?
I'm very, very like risk averse when it comes to real estate. And so when the houses that we're taking down, we have pretty strict criteria right now on like there has to be no other inventory for sale in that neighborhood. And we do like next level comping now. And what we did like 6 months ago does not work today with comping. Right. And so, yeah, I just think it's to mitigate risk, understand like where is the market going? It's a little unknown. Every city's different. I feel like where the market's at is literally, and I don't know what it is in other cities. I see it in my students. Some cities are getting like tanked. Some are still crushing it. Yeah. But like in our city, it's just literally pocket by pocket. Some are still crushing it and moving in days. Some are sitting for months. And it's hard to predict. So now we are being very cautious with how we run our comparables and make our decisions. And we're doing a lot of training around that with the team. I mean, just like every other investor, we got caught with a couple houses that aren't moving right now. We're probably going to refi them into rentals. But we finally found the sweet spot of houses we will take down. And so we're like out of that now of just, you know, we still have some solid flips going on. This is why I only buy in first-time home buyers. You know, I wasn't around in 2008 doing real estate, but all of my mentors that were, they said back then, even if you were in first-time home buyer pricing at that time and had a fully nicely renovated home, you typically were still selling it. It's when you get past the median price and you're doing these like if the median price here is $280 and I'm doing a $400,000 home, that's the problem. Right. So we buy zip code. I always recommend, especially to newer flippers, we go down to the zip code and we look at the median price of that and we stay under the median price by zip code. And the reason why you want to do it in zip code and not county or metropolitan area is because, you know, Upper Arlington, the #1 school district, sits here and right next to it's the shittiest school district. And so there's a massive swing in median prices. Right. And so you've got to go down to the zip code at this point, in my opinion.
That's interesting. That's a little piece of gold for sure. Cause I nobody does that I'm aware of that I work with. Do you still like, even when you're coming down and like at a zip code level in terms of pricing, like you guys are kind of known for like design first flips, right? Like you try and stand out on the market to move your flips. Is that still your focus when you're doing this, or you're happy to like, is price really what's moving the needle right now?
We do all the same materials in every house, no matter the price point.
Wow.
I have not been out to a flip in over 5 years, so it's pretty systemized. Yeah, we don't do design first. Ours are very much like the same turnkey every house.
Interesting. Great. And because it's the economics, it's the comping, it's the what can you get it on the market for based on that zip.
Yeah, whatever the comps say we're supposed to do to it, we do. But like if it needs a new kitchen, it's always the same kitchen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool.
But if say all the comps have painted cabinets, we just paint the cabinets.
Do you think what's going on right now is just typical for the industry? Do you think we're just like in our typical ebbs and flows? Because the sentiment right now is that it's a really hard time to be in real estate investing. It's a really hard time to be a wholesaler. Do you think it's just a normal ebb and flow, or do you think that the market is actually shifting and that we're going to see something dramatically different in the next 12, 24, 36 months?
The good news is Trump is a real estate guy. That's all I got to say. Like I wish I could predict it, but I don't know. Something in my gut says that something like not COVID, but like something like that is going to happen again, where it's like you couldn't even predict it. It's something so outrageous that like you're like, who could have avoided it, right? I mean, you hear these companies that are literally going bankrupt right now over like back when they got PPP loans, or companies that lost their whole family life under COVID, like because maybe they own restaurants or whatever. Like that's something that no matter how smart you are, like you had zero control. And so for me personally, because I am risk adverse, I wish I could say, go build this legacy, whatever. I personally have so much equity in all of my rentals and everything. I'm offloading a lot and I'm just sitting on cash for now because like whatever happens, I'm sure there's going to be opportunity that comes out of it.
I had a call with a business partner yesterday and they were very doom and gloomy about the future. And it was just like, recessions suck and people lose a lot of money and whatnot in recessions, but millionaires and billionaires are made in recessions. And it's just about, for us, and the tone that I tried to move the conversation into was like, what is Darwin known for, right? The most adaptable wins. So like, as long as we're more flexible and as long as we're looking for opportunity and not telling ourselves a story that we can't do this or that we're going to lose money, then I think that's where the opportunities come from. So yeah, I like what you're saying with sitting on cash. That's interesting. I don't know that it's something I would recommend to everybody. We're all in different
sitting
situations.
On cash is not smart with the value going down, but it's like, do I go back it with something that could lose 50% of its value in the next 3 to 6 months? Like, I don't know. So,
well, even Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on more cash than they've ever sat on right now. So it's definitely a safe place to be, if nothing else. You're known for building elite phone sales teams. Can you walk me through some of your recruiting and onboarding process for that? Because I think a lot of people, I hesitate to say simplicity, but I think a lot of people hesitate and make it way more complex than it needs to be. And there's somebody that I know quite well who has spent over 6 months just trying to hire their first 2 sales reps because they're very concerned about the whole onboarding process and if they're the right types of people and do they have the skills. And I know you well enough to know that like, you're big on have a good onboarding process, have a great training for them. And as long as you hire somebody with a good mindset, then you can train them to do what you need to do.
I always compare this. I'm not sure if you've ever heard Josh talk about this, but the two brothers that originally built McDonald's, right? They were really good at building this perfect quality burger at the fastest way possible. Mm-hmm. And so they opened their first store and like, it's like this new thing and everyone's raving about it. So then one of the brothers goes and opens a second store. And as they tried to grow, it was like they'd grow, snap back. And it was really because they hadn't become the leaders that it takes to really grow beyond that. And then Ray Kroc comes along and he looks over this perfect process and he turns it into the worldwide enterprise that it is today. And that's really the difference between a manager and a leader. And ultimately, the one thing you have to look at when it comes to franchises is that McDonald's got so damn good at onboarding and systems that now high schoolers can run their locations. Like, You know what I mean? And so ultimately, when it comes to onboarding, it's like going on your first date. It either makes or breaks this relationship. And a lot of times I see these people, like someone shows up and they don't have their email set up, their CRM, like they're frantically trying to get them a computer and gear and all the stuff. Or they just say, hey, here's a script, come shadow me. Oh, by the way, go lock up, 100,000 a month. There's no rhyme or reason by the 100,000. There's no KPIs. The person doesn't even know why it's 100. They don't know what they're going to make. And they were never really set up for success. So we have a 2-week onboarding. And what is the biggest thing you want in onboarding? You want them to retain the information. So we need to make sure that we have tools and resources inside of that onboarding to make sure that we understand, are they retaining it or not? Each section in onboarding has quizzes, assessments, all that. And then if they don't get 100, they have to go back and watch it again. And then we spend more time on that section, because why would I go put you on the phone if you're not like thoroughly understanding this, right? And so what some people, maybe they go buy a training and they're like, here, watch this, and then we'll go. But they don't actually verify how do they retain it. They don't put them through any type of exercises. After the 2 weeks, we then do what we call hands-on working. And so we give them a little bit older lists. We get their jitters out. We're very hands-on coaching. And then eventually they go off into the role. One big thing that I think, especially for sales roles, and it doesn't matter what kind of company you have, we have here's the minimum standard and why. That's important. Like, why is it 50,000 a month or 100,000 a month or whatever? What does it do for the company? So I know how I plug into this bigger picture.
Right.
Then there's this, but even though obviously we're a company for profit and I need you to make 50,000 a month in revenue or you're not performing. And oh, by the way, if you don't perform, here's what the process looks like. Blah, blah, like making sure they thoroughly understand what it looks like to work for you. If you do, I'm making this up, by the way. If you do 50,000 a month, you're going to make, 70,000 a year. But what do you want to make? And let's just say they're like, well, my goal is 110,000. Okay, why? Well, I'm buying a house this year and I'm going to get engaged. Oh man, we're going to crush this. What kind of ring you getting? And so like now they have a different reason why to go from 70 to 110. And obviously the company wants them to make 110. So we have a different scorecard and we say, okay, let's fill out the numbers. It reverse engineers them making 110 based on the company's KPIs. And it says, okay, to make 70, and I'm making this up again, let's just say it says you have to make 7 offers a week with this many, blah, 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 this many. But if you want to make 110, it's 8 offers, this and that. So it's really only, a couple more offers a week. Which one do you want me to hold you accountable to? Because once you choose, that is what I'm going to performance manage you on. So if you say 110, I'm going to hold you accountable to 110. So then I go into one-on-ones and I say, we don't talk about the minimum requirements now. And then if they're like, but I hit the minimum, I'm like, no. I had you sign a piece of paper that said, I'm committed and want you to hold me accountable to what I said I want to make.
And you as a leader have a position now where you're like, I'm holding you accountable to your standard because I want you to be 110 because you want to get married and buy a house this year. And do you remember that ring that we talked about? Like, do you still have the picture in your phone? So now you're on their team holding them accountable to performance as opposed to, well, this is company standard and you're not doing well enough, which is a really degrading kind of way to come about things.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we all need performance. We run a company. Sure. We don't run a company to lose money, right? So It is what it is. Ultimately, it holds people accountable to what they really want. And if I genuinely want to get married or I want to do these things that I said that I want to make 110 and I clock out at 5 every day, I can't want this more than you want it. So like you want more money, it requires things to make more money. Right. And so if they're really serious about that, then guess what? If they haven't got that extra offer in and it's 5 o'clock, you better bet that they're going to be making that extra offer. And so ultimately, it's really about defining and getting people to where they want to go. And I think that once you can find a way to do that, then that's where like loyalty is built, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, in Heels Homes, we haven't really lost. Most of my group has been there for 4 or 5 years. And as long as I continue to get them towards their goals, like Connor wanted to buy rentals. So I think he's like 3 rentals in now. We had to educate him, help him figure out where does he get the money, how does he refi it, get the contractors, right? That's life changing. But again, it's like I can't want something more than someone else. And so they have to come their way too. Like if I'm going to commit to this, you have to commit. The second you stop living up to that commitment, I'm not going above and beyond to do it.
What about the recruitment side of it? And I asked this because I sat in a room with you a couple of months ago and somebody was talking about hiring a sales rep and they were concerned about where they're going to get them and their experience and everything. And you and Josh brought up Best Buy employees, I think, as an example. And that was the first time I'd ever heard any perspective like this before. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Real estate side, we work till 8 p.m. on a few nights a week. And I always have people at our events be like, well, I can't find anyone that wants to work till 8. And I'm like, that's weird because there's companies open till 24/7 all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, then you need to go find them where they're working, today. And so there's retail that's open till 10, 11 o'clock, 7 days a week. And these people are selling all day, every day, right? So they at least have the personality, communication style, some level of training because they're working for big corporate. And so, but guess what? Those people likely wish they worked not till 10 p.m. and weekends all the time. And most times, let's just say it's 15 to 22 bucks an hour. And so it's like, hey, if I can go give them a better lifestyle with hours and attempt to match that pay, but then provide commission on top of it, that is life changing for somebody. Yeah. And so I would rather go change that person's life if they genuinely want to, than go find this person who's already making 120 and blah, 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 and thinks they know it all and tells me how it is. It's worked and it's changed a lot of people's lives in our office. But ultimately, it's like, go find them where they've already gotten some level of corporate training locally and wants to maybe adapt their hours for their family or something like that.
How do you comp sales reps to avoid any perverse incentives? I've been through this. We're going through this constantly in our company where we love base because we like to look after people, but does base breed complacency? So should it be more comp? Should it be all comp? Should it be a part of both? How have you find that good line in Heels Homes that also is protecting the bottom line of the company? Because that's the other part where we were doing a hybrid and we were way too aggressive and our payroll got out of control very, very quickly.
So what I learned over the years is that if somebody can't afford rent next month, it's going to come off in their calls and it's going to ruin $20,000, $30,000 opportunities for us. And so I'm a big believer that we should what I would do per city, because it's different every city, is go ask your local Walmart, Best Buy, retail stores, what is your average worker making per hour?
And not management, hourly worker, or average?
Just your hourly. Yeah, okay. Your hourly. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I try to match that as a base because I want someone to know that they can confidently have shelter over their head. Right. You know what I mean? And so that relieves this level of pressure. Now, that doesn't mean that they get to go out to eat and do all these things unless they perform, right? That's what sales is all about. And so it's still going to keep someone very hungry. So it's but at the end of the day, I don't think 100% commission in real estate specifically works. I do think maybe in education, just because in education, I sell you a ticket to a 2-day today, I transact that money today. But when I go to build my queue and housing for especially that first year, I can't control if this house closes in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, And so after that first year, someone might come to us and say, yeah, I want commission only. My whole queue's stacked out now. But that first year, that's pretty hard to ask someone to come in who has to wait basically 6 months to have any level of predictability.
Yeah, unless they're living with their parents, it's a hard place to be. You talk a lot about doing the boring, annoying work, which I love. It is definitely a mantra that I say a lot. Can you share an example of SOPs or scorecards that you've implemented that has turned around a struggling operation? Like an example of where people aren't focused on the boring work and what they get distracted in and why that's so detrimental?
I'll give you an example. I had someone come to us recently and they're like, I want more money. I want this, I want that. And I'm like, okay, so let's walk through what you're doing, all that stuff. And it's they get on phone calls, they get bored, they go out into the field, they do all these things. And I'm like, hey, let's put this into perspective now. You're spending, call it 10 hours a week on transaction coordinating. There's a company called Easy REI out there that you can delegate your transaction coordinating until you have enough that maybe you bring it in-house. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to spend that money. Okay, so we're willing to take 10 hours off the phone a week. Do you think you would get another deal a month if you had another 40 hours on the phone? That's a whole week on the phone. Yes. Okay, so walk me through the common sense behind you not making an extra $20,000, $30,000 a month versus you doing this $10 an hour task.
Right.
And then like you have to break down the logical understanding of how this ROI happens on our time. And it blows my mind because, you know, the people that are decision makers that just didn't know how to like that it was even an option, they go do it. Then there's the people that's like, oh, I like kind of know it's an option, but like I'm going to wake up and then 3 months later, I call them and they're still doing the same thing. It's just about like return on time. Like, what am I doing today to replace myself slowly over the course of time so I can get there?
It's just another leverage thing, right? Like that's what
Yeah, it's all leverage.
SOPs. Interesting. I had a hard time
And
with
so
this.
I go back to this because they're like, well, I might not be as good at on the phones. Okay, so how do you build confidence? I get that question all the time. How are you so confident on stage? How are you so confident in this? Because I've done it so many fucking times and failed so many times that it's inevitable to become successful at it because I just do the reps.
Yeah.
You know, I door knocked 5,000 doors before I could actually get a house in contract, basically, right? But like most people, they get told no 10 times and they're like, my life sucks. This is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I'm not meant for
So
this. I don't have the
it's like,
skills.
just go do the one thing that makes the money, you know?
Yes.
And like, keep doing it. Don't stop doing it. No matter how boring or how much you want to chase something else, just do the one thing.
How do you think people should identify that? I have this example where I didn't want to hire an EA for the longest time. And it was as simple as like, people were like, but they'll clean up your emails and they'll do these calls you don't want to do and like all this stuff. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I can't justify, like if I want an in-office EA, which we have now is like $5 or $6 grand a month, or maybe I have a virtual one and maybe it's an overseas somebody, so it's a couple $100, but it's like, what actual impact is that making in my business? And now once I made that hire, it was very obvious. Like, oh my God, I don't open emails anymore. I literally don't. She comes over with an iPad and asks me a few questions and it's done. Not going into my emails has probably been the biggest time saver I've had in the last year. And I don't even know how to express that to other people, let alone I don't have to negotiate with vendors anymore. I don't have to negotiate. I don't see client tickets anymore, which is very important in my business because that's emotional. Like that's something that can bring down, I can ruin a day by 9 a.m. just because somebody's having a bad day and blowing up a support ticket. How do you convey that? Like how do you help entrepreneurs understand leverage and understand where that is in their business to see the other side of it? Because I think it's the same as like sales and hiring a sales rep or marketing and doubling down in marketing. It's like you don't have the confidence, but how do you build confidence in that, in hiring somebody to take those things away?
There's a lot of moving pieces there, but a lot of it is mindset. And what I've learned over doing hundreds of events now, it's like I can teach something and it be so logically smart to go do and people still don't do it. And so what I realized is that people don't know where they're going and why. And if we don't figure that out first, you'll never make the decisions on any of these things we're talking about. So what I did with one of my mentors years ago is he had me take a piece of paper. I think we spent like an hour, but I do it at my events now. And I say, hey, imagine money grew on trees. And it doesn't even have to cost something. It could be like an experience or a feeling or whatever. I want you to write down for the next 5 minutes everything you wish you had in your life. It could be materials. It could be cars. It could be houses. It could be retiring someone. It could be like, I want to wake up and walk on the beach for 3 hours a day. I don't care. What do you want that life to look like? Describe its surroundings. Literally, like visualize every moving piece. Write it all down. And I remember I had a long list. One of them was like, oh, when I was little, I didn't have Christmas trees. And so like I had this best friend in elementary and her parents were super rich. And they had a designer come in every year for Christmas and design every room in their house, like custom done. And I remember I'd walk in, I'd be like, this is magical, you know? And so I'm like, I want that for my kids. And so as I'm filling this out, my mentor's like, hey, let's pull out a few of these for now because it's attainable. And okay, now what's the cost of that per month? Cool, 40,000, whatever. Now we know what the revenue goal is for this next 6 to 12 months. Now we need to reverse engineer it because now I have specific attainable things that I'm trying to go after. Where some people are like, I want freedom, I want money. It's like, okay, but what does that mean to you? Like, what is it even going to get that has purpose? Because if it doesn't have purpose, you're not actually going to do it. Every 6 to 12 months, I take that paper back out after I've hit that goal and I pull another thing over. And I slowly inch my way up to getting to where I ultimately said I wanted to be. And when we do that exercise at events, people start to have more clarity. Because they're like, a lot of times people are like, I don't even know why I'm in the business. So then we talk through it, oh, your kids are okay, but what about them? What is it you're even trying to provide them? So then when we go on to make these decisions and they say, no, I'm not delegating this, it's like, okay, then you really didn't want that. Take it off your paper. Because if you want that, the person who does that and gets that does this over here. So which person do you want to become? Do you want to stay this person? Cool. Don't give a shit. It's your life, not mine. But if you want this person under my belt at Results Driven, I'm going to hold you accountable to it, or don't be in Results Driven. You hire me, you pay me to hold you accountable. So like the second that you stop wanting to be accountable or being coachable, I just, I'll fire you. Yeah. So but we got to get clear on what are we doing and why we're doing it, because without a purpose, nothing else matters.
I don't know if I told you this directly personally. You told my wife and I about the Christmas room and hiring a designer and stuff like that. You realize that this is our first year getting our full house and office done. We left Hawaii, and that was like, that's what was in Danny's hands, right? Was Tiff, this is what Tiff's dream was. And like, it resonated with her so much because she's such a holiday person. So we are, for the first time, having somebody do our whole house this year. So that's thanks to you.
That's awesome. I hired my stager to do it. So she comes in and does all my staging with it.
What's the biggest mistake you see investors do in regards to delegating?
Just not delegate.
But do you think there's an issue with it? Like I used to run grocery stores. I had 600 employees at one point. I had an infinite amount of people to delegate to, and I was completely burnt out, and I hated it. I hated every conversation. I was terrible at delegating. And it wasn't that I was terrible at giving the direction, it was terrible. I was terrible at giving the direction. It wasn't that I was terrible at telling people what to do. Is that something that you see common in this industry as well? Do you think that people are bad at like actually the delivery and explaining the why, or is it that people just aren't doing it?
So we use a system called Gapology, and a lot of times if there's friction, it's because there's one of these boxes that are unchecked, and it's common, right? Like every day in the business, there's always going to be a gap. But typically, if they are already delegating and something's not working, it's probably due to one of these boxes. But the first one is knowledge. Like, did we even onboard them right? Like, because are we delegating to the right person? Like, did we recruit the right person? Are they even in the right seat? Did we onboard them and do we train them? Essentially, do they know how to do it? Because if they know how to do it, it should make your life easier. But if you never really trained them, now there are roles where, like, for example, I don't know how to do the work. So when I hire that role, I'm very clear in the interview. FYI, I don't know how to build a funnel. I am willing to invest in someone to teach you or give you resources, but I want you to know coming into this role that you report to me and I don't know how to do these aspects. So that's why I'm hiring someone that already knows how to do it. Whereas I might hire someone from Best Buy into our sales because we already have the onboarding. Does that make sense? Yep. So I'm very clear in the interview process for that. Then it's like, do they know that it's important? It's my job as the leader to set the priority level, communicate it effectively, and set really clear expectations. And so somewhere in there, someone might not understand the importance of something. And we have that a lot, actually. We run into this often. Because someone might say, I always give this funny example of like, Josh, will you take out the trash? And he goes, yeah. In an hour, I flip out and I'm like, why is the trash not taken out? And he's like, you didn't tell me when, And it's like, okay, hey, Josh, I need you to take out the trash by 7 p.m. because we have guests coming over and it's overflowing. Can you commit to that? Yes. Okay. By when? Cool. How do you want me to follow up with you? Do you see the difference in the communication?
Yes.
And so we have to do that with our team, or a gap will happen somewhere in there. And then what happens is when you don't address that gap or close the gap, then that's where like resentment builds and friction and all that. And then the third gap is, let's say they know it's important, they know how to do it, and they're still not doing it. Then there's a culture gap. Like clearly your attitude and whatever you're doing doesn't fit into this culture. And then there's accountability and commitment. So it's my job to hold someone accountable to what they committed to. And then if they choose to still not do it even after I'm holding them accountable, then that's when it's grounds for firing. So like I always make the joke, like if Josh didn't take out that trash, I'm like, Josh, we run into this all the time at home. We're like, Josh, and if this isn't done by 6:45, like you're fired for the night, But yeah, I think that a lot of times we get frustrated delegating because people might not understand the real expectation.
So it like goes back to why the $50K a month or whatever is the minimum for the business. Like because I've run into this with my sales team a while ago. And it's like, if they understand, to use a sales analogy, that the 50 grand a month means that 50 grand minus all of your expenses leaves enough room for you to pay their base and their commission. And that's why that's the minimum. They understand that when they're less than that, the company is actually at a net negative on their production. Then they understand why. They understand why they're being held accountable. They understand why they might get let go or something like that. So the same concept here with delegating. If they understand the importance of why they're being asked to do it, they're more likely to do it. I certainly missed that in my previous employment. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think too, it's just knowing like all of the moving pieces that it impacts too. Like if someone doesn't close this deal in time or whatever, like it doesn't just impact that individual, but that individual might not understand how it impacts a whole stream of other things. And so it's just making sure that, you know, there's constant communication and there's always going to be gaps. So like you need to embrace that. There's always going to be gaps. It's just a matter of how effectively do you close them.
What do you think is a completely underrated tool or system that either you guys teach at Results Driven or is just common knowledge in the industry right now that people are not utilizing or not focusing on enough?
I was actually just at a breakfast today. I don't know if this really fits into it, but you know, a lot of investors, they make their QuickBooks like the last resort for some reason. And then they panic and spiral because they don't know if they're making money, not making money, all this stuff. But let's just say you're a little bit more advanced and you do have your books updated, but you don't know where money's going personally, right? Because you might write off something here or there or whatever. One thing I did this last year that was actually like super eye-opening for me was I created a personal QuickBooks account to run my personal life like a business now. So my CFO has the same reporting for my personal life. We create projections, budgeting, all that. All my bank accounts and credit cards are connected to that QuickBooks. And then she gives me a monthly P&L. We review it. And then she'll literally bullet out like, hey, did you know that this subscription like showed up new this month? Or, hey, you spent this much more on your hair this month versus like the last 3 months. Did like something change? Hey, your Spectrum bill went up. Did you know that? Like things like that. It's been wild to me because I'm like, for example, over the summer, we obviously go boating and all this stuff. And there's an ongoing joke now. Josh spent thousands of dollars on DoorDash one month. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand. Like we could feed 10 families for this much money.
Yep.
And so, but like, I don't know if we would have paid as close attention if it wasn't for that. And so it's got us like really strategic around how we personally manage money now. But I would recommend it to anyone. It gives you way better line of sight to like where your money is going and all that.
We've done the QuickBook things for years now personally, but I've never like had anybody else audit it before. And I heard you mention this a little while ago, and I didn't have our CFO do it, but I had my brother do it. So like he sent me his and I sent me his, ours. And that was, he responded, and I still have the text. And it's like, you realize they sell food at grocery stores, right? You don't have to buy it at a restaurant or in an app every time because we spend far too much on it.
Yeah,
but it was,
we're bad.
we needed that little shaming to get our heads on right there. So that's a great tip. I think, you know, I grew up very much afraid of money. We grew up quite poor. And I have to this day, I like get anxious logging into my bank accounts. And I don't know why, but It's like, I do not like looking at my personal finances. I don't even like looking at our business finances. I do now, like it's great. But like in the start, like I didn't want to know. Like I just don't want to know. Do we have enough to make payroll? Great. Moving on. Yeah. That's a great tip.
Yeah, I'm similar. I mean, Josh is the opposite. So he handles all of that. I show up to the quarterly ones, but yeah, I mean, you just have to embrace like what you're strong at and what you're not, but I'm the same way. So I tell him, just let me go make more money.
Yeah, that's it. Let me work on that end. Yeah. It's like the whole wealth is just the difference between how much you earn and how much you spend. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep earning more and not worry about the other side of the equation. How do you see AI and tech impacting wholesaling and flipping in the next few years?
We've been leveraging it for like copy on things and stuff. And we are training something right now to speed up our call audit process. We still, like we've tested lots of people's industry tools that I'm sure everyone listening to this may have heard of. I still, to this day, like don't believe a bot can coach a salesperson. I do think it can speed up the process of saying, auditing multiple calls faster than any human could, and then saying, go focus your time on this. But when it comes to sales, like real life role playing and psychological understanding, because a lot of times when you're getting coached by a bot, sometimes you don't even know what to ask.
Right.
Right. So like where like a human will hear your tone and do all these things. And so I will say we're leveraging AI to speed up a lot versus like replace a ton right now, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. I have the same experience. My COO is very sales first. He comes from sales background, and it's the same thing. I'm finding AI to be a little underwhelming in that regard for sales right now. It's helped us identify certain things, like this sales rep doesn't use any stories or any doesn't really relate very well with the people he's on a call with. This sales rep is highly empathetic, and she talked about herself and her boyfriend the whole time, and we're not really sure she even got to the pitch. You should maybe have those two role playing with each other. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Now, should a sales manager pick up on that? Probably. I don't think that was like revolutionary, but a sales manager didn't have to listen to both their calls that week and was able to like go and like facilitate them role playing with each other and whatnot. So that was interesting, but I'm underwhelmed so far. I'm very interested to see where it goes. That's for sure.
I still don't think it's close to, like, I heard that people are using it for comping. I'm like, that is dangerous. I have tested it and I'm like, there is nothing that is going to replace the human eye to understand what's going on with that property. So I don't know. That's me personally. So maybe I'm old school, but I know I'm not relying on a bot to lose my like hard-earned money. So
yeah, I was just talking to somebody who's developing like a CRM where so they own a lot of properties. And so basically it's each month the property managers have to upload their PDFs for the properties that month. And the AI then like will text back the property managers and be like, well, it looks like this property, this line on the PDF wasn't filled out, or this person didn't pay the proper amount of rent, or why is this underperforming? Which again was interesting, but to your point, I would feel a lot more comfortable with a human reading through all of those documents and seeing what's going on. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. So for people who are aiming to get to an 8-figure business, what would you say your blueprint for stepping back from daily operations is without losing control? I personally am in this situation, so this is a personal question. I guess the question is, how do you trust? Like, how do you build the confidence and trust in your team to be able to step back and not, for me, be on every single leadership call, meet with my leadership team twice a day, every day, and just like have the confidence that the company will run without me, without everything lighting on fire and me pulling my hair out?
it's probably one of the biggest identity shifts I think anyone, in my opinion, will make. It's scary because to get to 7 figures, even multiple 7 figures, some people think, oh, it's a lot of money. It's like, no, you're in survival, like getting that. Like any day, one thing could go wrong and you could lose it. But once you're really at the 8-figure mark, you have to change as a human being. And that's not easy. Like you can't just wake up and be like, okay, I'm a changed human. It takes third-party help, in my opinion. Understand, what does that person look like, do, feel like? What are the skill sets I have to have? What do I have to do differently? Because I haven't met a human that went from 7 to 8 that didn't have like full-blown fucking anxiety. I mean, I've definitely experienced it because I went through a stage for several months where, you know, my whole leadership team's like, why do you have to be on this meeting? Why do you have to be on this? Because I'm always the one that's like trying to figure out what problem I can go solve. And so it's almost like I create the problem to solve the problem.
Right.
And obviously, like we always have the best intention, right? Like we want everyone to win. But at the end of the day, a lot of times you just get in everyone's way. And then what happens from 7 to 8 figures as you start realizing, okay, I got to get out of the way. You're like, so what do I do? You know, what am I supposed to do? Like, and then you feel the sense of guilt and you feel like one wrong, like internally it takes a while to get over like, okay, what if this one decision goes wrong and we lose 6 figures? And it's like, well, the person who makes 8 figures, they have to be okay knowing that they can lose 6 figures. That person, that like you really have to become the person that's like, you understand the risk at being at this stage. And it's like, you know, going from being that one-man show to whatever, right? It's like, we have to evolve. And I think that from 7 to 8, the biggest thing holding people back, and it did for me, was just the person that it took to become it. And I think Donald Trump said this, and I forget the exact words, but like the amount of success you're willing to go after is the amount of pain you're willing to have. Like you, with more success equals way more pain. And I don't think a lot of people understand the level of pain a leader takes on at that size, because like you've got families that are getting fed by you. You've got students and their families. You've got clients. You've got all these things sitting on your shoulders. And so when you hear things like, you know, I'm making this shit up, someone's getting divorced, someone has cancer, this, that, this, it's like, dude, I can only handle so many stories sitting on my weight, on my shoulders. Yeah. And so there is a breaking point where like you'll wake up and you have to make the decision. So if you don't choose to make that decision, you're going to be like, fuck this. You're going to say, I'm either choosing to relinquish control, or I can't go feel the pain and the weight of providing for everything. And so we have to be able to put people in place that we trust are going to do the best thing in that moment. They might not always make the right decision, but it's my job to make sure that they have the controls and the reports and the resources to make the right decision, and then build this relationship that when they are getting ready to make a big decision and they know like, oh, this could go one way or the other, that they come tell me. Right? Because you still got to be a part of some of those. And that was probably the hardest part for me, was like hearing, oh, you're only allowed to be in CFO meetings. Outside of that, don't show up to anything. I'm like, I'm confused. Like I literally went to Google and was like, what does a CEO do? Like, I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm like in this self-sabotage mode where it's like, I have to justify my salary to myself, where I'm like, why am I getting paid? Like, this doesn't feel very responsible sometimes. If my job, it feels like right now, is to try and do as least as possible. You know,
I'll give you an example. I launched this local meetup, right? I just had my third event, 300 people register, completely organic, no paid, whatever.
Cool.
And I'm looking in the room and someone complained to me about something. And I remember looking at them like, you didn't just go through 10 years of fucking 20-hour days, complete sacrifice, losses. Like, I missed every one of my family's weddings. I missed all this shit to make sure that all 300 of these people wanted to show up.
Right.
So if you want to bitch, there's the door.
Right.
Like, I don't know how else to tell you that, what goes behind deserving this part, because my whole life, my whole family's life, everything is risked to make sure that thousands of other people are fed, right? And it's like my students have families. Everyone has families that I'm impacting. And you have to remember that that weight on our shoulders deserves a break. And when you go and you free, because right, normally the visionary is a visionary and like has big creative ideas. But when you go on a vacation, we all know that you don't actually shut your mind down, right? So that is when I'm like, oh, now I understand the next big thing. Because I finally got to get away from the, day to day. And I'm thinking here like, oh, and how I came up with a meetup. I sat there and I was like, man, AI is taking over. I'm hearing more and more that my students don't feel connected. It's getting harder than ever to build trust with people through ads. My costs are going up. And so I'm like, let's create connection. Let's make it attainable for people to go. And how do I build trust? I go to the backyard where I don't have to build the trust. They just go see my house and there's zero trust building. Yeah. And so I'm like, I want to test this because there could be something to this on a bigger scale. So I'm 3 events in. I have sold nothing. I don't plan on selling anything right now. But what I'm trying to verify is, do people trust me to bring me deals? Do people trust me to lend me their money? Do people ask me for coaching even though I'm not selling it? Yes, to all of those so far.
Right.
And so, I had someone unfortunately come to me and say, well, why are we putting all this work into this? Because like, I'm not making more money because of it. And I'm like, well, to have more career opportunity and more money in a year from now, we have to have R&D in this company and we have to test new things. And you have to have faith in me as an owner to provide that level of opportunity for growth. And so, but you don't come up with these ideas when you're in the day-to-day mix. We come up with these when we're like learning and reading and discovering from new partnerships and other CEOs, what's working for them. What are their clients saying? I have to have the time to go build these relationships to even understand, what does the market want? I would be failing the company if during that time period, I wasn't building relationship equity And, I'm getting ready to form a couple partnerships that like wouldn't happen if I didn't just go leave the office for 2 weeks.
Right.
And so that's ultimately where, when you're in the 8-figure mix, we've got to throw away the mindset of like, oh, I'm supposed to be do to make the salary. No. My job is to go find that one multi-million-dollar partnership this year for this company. And that requires me to go build a relationship. And it's just a different day-to-day look than what we're used to.
Right.
We're used to like typing 100 miles an hour, but now I got to go like get this person to trust me, like me, all that. That's a skill in of itself.
That's the catching a plane to go to Dallas to have dinner with somebody on a Tuesday night with 2 hours notice, because that's what's going to be the biggest next move. Not I put in more calls than my sales manager today.
Correct. And I think that getting to the 7-figure mark, it's like, you don't have a choice. Like when my team doesn't perform, I'm on the sales floor taking the calls. And literally it was up until 5 months ago, I was doing that. And then I finally woke up one day and my mentor was like, you understand that you don't deserve this result you're trying to go after when you go do that. And I'm like, but my team knows I do whatever it takes. Like I will go jump on the phones. I'll go do all these things. And he's like, I get it. But you also put leaders in place that live out those same standards and values. You got to go let them do their thing, because the company won't progress or grow if you're not out building these relationships.
You're hindering their ability to do that. Interesting. I love that.
So for you, for example, like you spending time with the biggest coaches in the country are important, right? Because it keeps people on your platform. And relationships matter. Like I had an affiliate partner recently that like just a complete asshole, and I'm probably one of their biggest affiliates. And I'm like, look, man, I don't need the money anymore. So like, if you think you're going to incentivize, and don't get me wrong, I want to make money, but like, if you think you're going to incentivize me to make money and you're not going to like care about this relationship, then like, guess what? There's 5 other companies like you. So I'll go partner with someone that I actually enjoy talking to and hanging out with. And so I just think that people take that for granted, but I really do think that's the difference between 7 and 8 figures. Is 8 figures is like, I got to go figure out what's the next multi-million-dollar thing that could take you a year of those relationships before it hits you on a trip one day.
Man, I feel like we should do this podcast on a weekly basis. This is great for me.
And you have to remember, you're the visionary now. So like the visionary says, where are we going? Like if you're like, I'm building a mountain, cool. The CEO, and I don't know if you have a CEO, but the CEO's job is to say, okay, how am I going to get up that mountain? Am I going to like take a bus? Am I going to ride a bike? Am I going to run? I'm the one saying where we're going. Chris is the one that's saying this is how we're going to do it. And then we have an executive that does and runs that day to day to get to that spot. But like your job is just to say, this is where the hell we're going.
And I need to give myself the time and space to be able to sit and be creative and create that vision, because it's not just something that you draw up on a Sunday morning in your journal. It's something that evolves and iterates over time with reps and practice and knowledge and conversations and things like this.
I think sometimes too, people get caught up that like, the vision I shared with my company 7 years ago, and I woke up 5 months ago and I was like, man, I just don't think that this vision evolved with who we've become. And so I've spent the last 5 months building out a new vision statement, mission, a bunch of stuff, because I'm like, I want to make sure that this is evolving into like, now who are we becoming now? And people like think that you can't evolve, and you're like, I'm scared to say that like we're changing or we're this or we're that. Okay, or just wake up and be in the same fucking spot every day. Like, which one do you want?
What coaches right now have a meetup and have decided to like, fuck it, everybody's going AI, everybody's online, like we got the metaverse coming, whatever. You're like, well, then you're damn right. I'm going to make sure I'm tripling down on the human touch and being in rooms with humans, and I'm going to have a meetup. And I don't care for what cost of time and let alone capital that is for the next year. This is what I'm doubling down on.
Yeah, I just, I don't know if you've seen, like, they're starting to come out with like restaurants and things where you have to put your phone away, and they're like, because AI and whatever, it's like human connection is like the big thing now. And so I was like, okay, where do I get the most human connection with people in my backyard? And it might not go anywhere, and I'm okay with that. But like, I won't know unless I try. And so I'm just trying to figure it out, pour into it. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not making money on it. That's for sure. But I might eventually.
We're at time. So You have a 4-week training that I think is
Yep.
really cool. Can you tell me briefly about that? And then we'll link it in the description wherever anybody's listening or watching this.
So we have a 4-week virtual live coaching with me and Josh, and we do it the first 4 Wednesdays of every month. They're recorded in case you can't make it. But what we've learned over time when we went to quote unquote scale is we scaled the first time before we had ever really built this foundation. And it's like, building a house on top of, toothpicks. And so we do 4 weeks. The first week is all about marketing data. How do we properly launch these campaigns and reverse engineer based on data? And not just like say, oh, I got $5,000. I'm just going to go test this channel, but not really know what to expect out of the $5,000. And then the second week, we go over everything acquisitions, like how do we onboard, train, manage, and why would we build a team or hire a closer? Third week's all around systems, processes, like how do we review KPIs? How do we make decisions on them? What should we be tracking? And then week 4 is how do we, a lot of times people dispo deals and they sell them to the same 5 to 10 buyers because they're running around with their head cut off. So we talk about how do we put in systems to continue to deepen the spread of those deals. And that's like very high level, but it's only $27. People are like, well, is it even valuable if it's $27? And it's like, I would give it to you for free, but then you wouldn't show up because when you get free shit, you don't show up to things. The reason why it's $27 is because I believe in the right to earn their trust. And I'm so confident that if you don't get a minimum of a deal a month from this training, then like it was probably a you thing, not a me thing. But if I can get someone at least a deal a month, I hope that I have the right to continue to work with them. And so anyways, everything that we use in our 20 deal a month system on the front end is in this 4-week training, calculators, tools, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I'll somehow get you a link, put it in the show notes or whatever. Yeah. But we do it every month. You can join whenever and we'll throw you in. We actually end up giving you 2 months access though.
Yeah, I love that too. And I love what you're saying. It's in alignment with everything you've been saying, which is an opportunity for you to build a relationship and show value and lead with value. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. This is awesome, Tiff. I really appreciate connecting with you as always.
Oh, by the way, your wife reached out to me. I'm not a good coordinator. So if she is just tell her to text me the date.
She is. And she has made sure I have no travel for next month. So yeah, she definitely, I think it's happening. What you and I will hear about it when it is. So yeah, I'll let her know.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Sounds good. I appreciate having me on.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.